Hi everyone, it's me again, Doris Raymond from The Way We Wore in Los Angeles. I want to thank you for watching this episode and hopefully many others prior to. We do look forward to your thumbs up and also subscribing to our channel because it helps with recommendations and it increases the number of people that we can add to our tribe. So this week's episode, we take to heart a lot of the recommendations that people make in the comments section. And a lot of people have asked for an episode on purses. And purses are such a wide range of categories that we could cover. So I thought what we would do is do an episode on beaded bags. Beaded bags to me are one of the quietest forms of art, because they are all handmade. Some of them can take up to a year to make, and the ones that are from the 20s and older are true survivors. We have great examples here of actually now that I'm looking at them, I see that they're all loomed bags for this episode. If you are familiar with weaving, you know that there are warp threads, which are put on some kind of thing that holds the thread taut. And the same thing for looming beaded bags. And it actually doesn't take a terribly long time if the beads are already on a string. But patterns make it more complicated. The size of the bead makes it more complicated. And overall, I honestly, I don't think I have the patience or the time to be able to create some of these beauties. I wanted to kind of go through a little bit of the history and then I'll show you some of the examples that we brought. Beaded bags have been around for quite a while, at least 4 or 5 centuries, but they became really popular in the early and middle 1800s. And at that time, they were created with itsy bitsy teeny weeny beads. So much so that if you look at some of the ones in museums, I'm sure people literally went blind from creating bags with them. The drawstring bags are called reticules, and they have pretty distinct characteristics, oftentimes with tassels, which are a way to weight it down. We have a few examples of reticules, but for the most part, the purses that we have here are more framed purses, and primarily from the turn of the century through, we have maybe one from the 50s or 60s. I should tell you that before World War II, the bead industry was really thriving in a lot of parts of Europe. Bohemia, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Czechoslovakia, of course, and France and Italy also were part of this industry. In Italy, they had Murano glass from Venice, and primarily beads from those regions were really, really fine quality. But my personal favorite are the steel cut beads. Rumor has it that the equipment that created those beads were either destroyed during World War II or relocated and reconstructed, reconfigured. So to be able to create the type of faceted cut steel beads in this day and age is, I think, near to impossible. So people that collect beaded purses, those tend to be their treasures. I will tell you that you really want to find beaded purses that are in good condition. That means everything from the frame to be hardy enough to support the weight of the beads, to the lining, which is not as important, except the lining really helps support and buffer any kind of tension or jag. If you put your keys, for example, the lining would protect the purse from being destroyed. And then the other thing you want to look for besides that condition, the frame, and the lining are 3 factors that you want to look at if you intend to either collect or purchase bags. Of course, if you have the patience to restore things, you can find some beautiful bags that may need a little bit of work. So a lot of the beaded bags that were very popular in the teens and 20s had either scenes like rustic scenes or butterflies or flowers, and depending on the period, like in the Art Nouveau period, you'd find different kinds of patterns. This incredibly beautiful 1920s bag is butterfly. So this bag is a really great example of a reticule. It is more than likely Art Nouveau, just before the Art Deco period, and it's a great example because it has Aurora Borealis beads, it has carnival glass beads, which are these wonderful kind of teal iridescent, and it has these truncated bugle beads that are opaque. And of course it has the tassel, which is multicolored. But beads that come in various colors, I have a real soft spot for the steel cut beads that have been dipped in a chemical dye to create these magical, magical colors. This, this particular one is an Art Nouveau purse, and it's all cut steel. So one of the things that I learned when I researched this, which I was very excited to experiment with, was that you can differentiate between cut steel beads and glass beads. Some of the glass beads really look like they may be metal, but the way you do that is by using a magnet. So this is clearly cut steel, and they're micro beads, which is fantastic. And then we have a little teeny weeny bag that's also cut steel, which also draws the magnet. But this, I wasn't sure if it was glass or metal, and so I tried my test and it didn't work. So we know these are more of a carnival glass kind of bead. They refract light because they're faceted, and that's a technique that is really kind of illustrates the older beads. It's a good way to identify older beads. I'm going to show you a few more of my favorite steel cut beads that are treasures. This one, which has, it's not really a carpet design, but I guess some people might call it a carpet design. That's something that is highly collectible. And one of the things you'll notice are for purses that have higher value, either because it took a lot of time or the quality materials, the frames are exceptional. It has red stones on the top of the frame and also on the connector that opens it, front and back. This incredibly beautiful, magnificent cut steel bead has all its fringe, and the pattern is very typical. It's almost like upholstery wallpaper kind of fabric from the time period. But it has, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 different colored cut steel beads in it. Show you a couple of more cut steel. Oh, this one is really interesting because it's not as old. We have to reattach the handle. But they managed to use a lot of pearl beads, which look like they're cut steel, and integrate them with some metallic beads as well. And you'll see some purses were made in Belgium. This one is made in France. A lot of the really beautiful beaded purses did get imported from France. One other category, which is actually, I think, really interesting, is to go by color, or like in my case, the cut steel beads. Certain bead colors are really a good way to date a bag, and cornflower blue and brick red are earlier purses. I want to mention that the formulas, I found this out online, for different colors of glass are closely guarded, and the recipe for true black glass was lost during World War II, or I'm sorry, World War I, and the modern black glass beads are actually a deep, deep purple. So if you put it up to the light, you can see that it's actually not black. So that can help you date pieces pre-World War I. To give you an idea of how precious these purses were at the time that they were made, I found an article that said that typically beaded bags back then sold between $10.50 and $37. And I didn't do an equivalent of what that would be, let's say from 1920 to now, but it's a lot of money. And there's two companies that actually offered imported beaded bags between $5 to a whopping $100, which I find unbelievable since homes sold in a couple of thousand to 3,000 back then. So you can see that people, a lot of these purses were handed down from generation to generation because they were created with love and time, and they're family heirlooms. As far as prices today go, you can find a beautiful beaded purse, glass beaded purse, in the range of $150 to, let's say, $450 depending. The carpet purses tend to be more if they're in excellent condition and if the frames are extremely beautiful. We have one purse here that has, it's kind of a reticule shape, but it has a frame. And the frame is extraordinary. So that can add a lot of value to a purse. In fact, sometimes the frame is worth more than the actual bag. Cut steel bags can start in like the $400 or $500 range if they're the older pieces in excellent condition, but they actually go up to, you know, $1,200 to maybe $2,000 depending. I did a quick look on First Dibs to see, since that's considered one of the higher end online marketplaces, and they had mostly contemporary beaded bags and very few pre-World War II. So, but there are a lot online if this is something that appeals to you. And we do have quite a bit for sale in the store. So we don't have a lot of beaded purses posted on our website. And if that's something that you're really curious to see what we do have to offer, please email us at thewaywewore@sbcglobal.net. And we'd be happy to send you personal email that fulfills whatever request you have. And that's not just for beaded bags, okay? So if you like this episode, please give us a thumbs up. And if you want to get notification that we've posted more episodes, please subscribe. And we really appreciate your interest and your comments. You guys have all been so kind to me during this very difficult period, this year and a half of major challenges. So I appreciate it. Anyway, that's it for now, and we look forward to either seeing you or hearing from you or connecting with you sometime in the near future. Thank you. Bye.